Yo, this is Mr. O. Hey, yo, Mr. O is here. And today we're gonna learn about complex number. What's complex number? This is where the two parts, the real and imaginary, meets together. The A plus BI. A is the real part, the real number. And the imaginary part is the one with the I. The complex, the imaginary number is attached to obviously to the coefficient to the variable. When you put them together, that's your complex number. So let's try to simplify involving complex number here with the real and the imaginary part. So 5 plus 6i plus negative 9i plus 7, we're just like combining like terms. Since it's adding, 5 plus 7 is going to be 12. 6i plus negative 9i is negative 3i. This is your real part. And this is your imaginary part. Okay? And that's the answer. 12 minus 7i minus negative of the quantity 10 minus 5i. We know that we can combine 12 with 10. 12 minus 10, it's 2. Negative 7i minus negative here, it could be positive. Negative 7i plus 5i will be negative 2i. And this is your real, and that's your imaginary part. Kaboom. Simplify. Negative 8i times the quantity 4 minus 9i. You're going to distribute. This will be negative 32i. But now, listen here. 8i, negative 8i times negative 9i is positive 72. What's I times I? I squared. And what do we know about I squared? I squared is the same thing as negative 1. So I can replace that by negative 1. What's 72 times negative 1? Negative 72. So our correct answer here is negative 32i minus 72 or negative 72 minus 32i. Either or is correct for us here. Okay? Now here, 2 plus 3i times the quantity 3 minus 4i. We're going to use the concept of FOIL. FOIL means 2 times 3, the first is 6. 2 times negative 4i is negative 8i. 3i times 3 is 9i. And 3i times negative 4i is negative 12i squared. Going back, what is I squared here, guys? I squared is equal to negative 1, so this will be negative 12 times negative 1. Do we have any like terms here? Yes. We have negative 8i plus 9i, which will give you 1i and a 6 here. What's negative 12 times negative 1 is positive 12. Combine the like terms, 6 plus 12 is going to give us 18 plus 1i. And that's how we get simplified. Okay? Next, 5 minus 3i to the squared. The meaning of the squared here, there are two of that one. 5 minus 3i, 5 minus 3i. That means you're going to FOIL it again. 5 times 5 is 25. 5 times negative 3i is negative 15i. 3i times 5 is negative 15i again. And 3i times negative 3i is positive 9i squared. We combine the like terms here, which is negative 30i. This is 25 here. I squared is equal to negative 1 times 9 is negative 9. 25 minus 9 is going to be, what, 16? Minus 30i. Kaboom. Next, it is a rule in math that you cannot have an I in the denominator portion of a fraction. You cannot have an I down there. So you cannot have an I here. So how can we get rid of the I denominator? Here's how you do it. You're going to multiply this by an I on the bottom and I on top. Why do we multiply I on the bottom? Because I times I will give you I squared. What's I squared? I squared is -1. So therefore, the I will get out of the denominator. So here, 5 times I, multiply it straight across, 5I. 2I times I is 2I squared. But again, what do we know about I squared? I squared is equal to -1. So this becomes 5I over 2 times -1. So we replace the I squared by -1. And therefore, 5I times 2 times -1 is -2, negative, and that's the answer. If you notice, there's no more I in the denominator, right? Next, 6 plus 2I over 5I. We cannot cancel that one. That's wrong. Don't cancel that because there's no I on the 6. So what do we need to do? Same thing as the previous example. Multiply this by I and I. Distribute the I here. That will give us 6I plus 2I squared. 5I times I is 5I squared. Simplify. Again, I squared is equal to -1. So this will give us 6I plus 2 times -1. 5 times -1. That will give us 6I minus 2 over -5. This is a correct answer. Or, since the denominator is negative, you want it to be positive, so flip all the sign. This will become -6I plus 2 over 5. Either of these two is correct. They're both right. Kaboom. Next. Now, we cannot have I in the denominator side again, but I do have I here. If I multiply this by an I and I here, you're right, I times I there will give us 3I squared, which will be -1. This I here will be gone. But you have to distribute this I here, that will still have an I in the denominator. So it's not going to work if you have a binomial, there are two terms here, and you multiply it only with I. That only works on the previous example because the denominator is only 2I, which is a monomial, and here is a 5I, which is also another monomial. But here is binomial, there are two, so what do we need to do here? You have to multiply it by, it's called conjugate. Conjugate means copy the 4 and copy the 3I, but flip the sign of the middle term. This will be positive. And same thing over here, 4 plus 3I. Make sense? If this is negative, make it positive here. If this was a positive, this will be negative. Clear? Good. Now, we will multiply the numerators. Foil it. You're going to foil here twice. 2 times 4 is 8. 2 times 3I is 6I. 6I times 4 is 24I. And 6I times 3I is 18I squared. While the denominator here, 4 times 4 is 16, 4 times 3I is 12I, negative 3I times 4 is negative 12I, and negative 3I times 3I is negative 9I squared. Let me show you something first, why we multiply by the conjugate. Look at the denominator side. What do you notice about this portion here? 12I minus 12I are opposite numbers. One is positive, one is negative. And they will cancel. That will become 0. And that's the idea there, is to get rid of that. Because the I squared here, what's I squared? I squared is -1, right? -1 times -9 will give us positive 9. So there's no more I in the denominator side. The numerator, combine the like terms here. This will give us I squared, which will be -1. This makes it negative 18. This makes that 30I. And this is positive 8. Combine the like terms. 8 minus 18 is negative 10 plus 30I over 16 plus 9 will give us 25. If you notice, 30, 10, negative 10, 25 are all divisible by what number? 5. Divide this by 5, divided by 5, divided by 5. The correct answer is -2 plus 6i over 5. Kaboom. And that's how you simplify and apply complex number. Kaboom.